Okay, let's conclude this chapter with some specific ideas about how climate justice may look like. There are many community-based social movement responses which talk about redefining economic growth and the new paradigm. Dale Herman's viewpoint from the point of economy are very important there. There are other ideas as well. Eleanor Ostom's work on managing the commons, Nordhaus talking about the climate casino, and so on and so forth. Long-standing and dominant commitments to infinite economic growth in major climate policy debates is destructive. We need to shift from export-led development policies and practices in Global South to supporting locally sustaining economies. How do you become more local? Now everything is global. You can get blueberries at some point in some season which is not the local season, but it's coming from the other hemisphere. You are very happy to have your blueberries with your yogurt, but it's not good for the environment. It's good for the economy though, right? Wealthy nations of the global north must also learn to consume less. These are not easy, but nonetheless, they are lofty goals that must be pushed somehow. We should re-examine global trade and investment rules on encouraging energy-intensive industries. That goes hand in hand with how new energy sources will come about, how new transportation will become less carbon intensive. Many observers believe that the United States should launch a Green New Deal that would feature a carbon tax on the biggest industrial polluters, phase out subsidies to high emission industries, and promote increases in public funding for clean renewable energy, public transport, and energy efficiency. All of this would improve job creation. Obviously, climate change got decimated by President Trump because he not only was catering to the industries, he seems to also have a personal vendetta against this whole climate science. He's a complete science denier, whereas the new incoming President Joe Biden has already put forth some ideas on how a new Green Deal could be brought about. And not easy, not at all easy, because he has to take the support from the other side, and that's not always easy either. So these are posters reflecting people's struggle for climate justice. So remains a problem. What might climate justice look like? Any effort at achieving climate justice will have to focus on the root social, ecological, political, and economic causes of the climate crisis. Economic causes, these are always critical because people respond quickly to economic issues. Systematic transformations are needed, hence the slogan, system change, not climate change. There are very nice ideas on carbon trap, for example. Even if you want to reduce your carbon footprint, the system is set up so that it's not very easy to do that. So decarbonizing the system is needed, not just building more efficient things that reduce emission, but just eliminate emission. So system change may be more important. Solutions rooted in practices that produce the problem make little sense. The science and technology that has brought us this energy intensive lifestyle may not be able to solve the problem, but that is for another day. In particular, market-based solution must be re-evaluated since pro-growth policies led us down the path towards climate disruption in the first place. This is a complicated concept because how do you grow the economies or develop the countries? Remember the HDI versus ecological footprint. We have to reduce ecological footprint but also increase the human development index for all. That's climate justice in essence. How do we do that? Community action plan at local level works to build political power to reduce and prevent carbon emissions and to promote sustainability. So all global warming is local. Nobody lives in global mean temperature, global mean sea level rise, and global warming is creating winners and losers and will do that for a long time. But locally, if you can develop solutions, sustainability, then it adds up to global sustainability. Again, not easy. How can we work? Some of the questions that we need to take out of these climate justice ideas is, how can we work with and empower community-based social movements to change the discourse and policy making around climate disruption? So this book has already switched to climate disruption as opposed to climate change. How can we bring a deeper understanding of social inequalities and social justice to climate change debates? What are some alternatives to market-based solutions in the climate change debate? And how can we promote them? What might climate justice look like? Okay, that's the key question. And we have to again remember, in the elephant and rider framework, people want autonomy and change, and they also want care and empathy. They want to dominate. They have need for power and competition. Evolutionary instincts of power and competition are good in many ways, okay, for human progress. This is just what it is. Everything we set up is about winning. But the question is, do winners take all approaches work? Herman Daly would say no. He even wants to set a limit between the highest salary and the lowest salary. I would love it, but depends on how it affects me, right? Security and instability. We want those which are like limitations, but we also want to power and compete. So human beings are absolutely totally complicated, but nonetheless the people's perceptions themselves on how serious climate change is as a threat varies from country to country, as we say. So people who think of climate change as a very serious concern is less than 50% in the US, but you can see in most other countries it is very high. So if rich people think climate crisis is not an issue, climate change is not a crisis, it's not a very serious threat, then how do you bring about action? And then there is the market-based competition that brings about greed. Volkswagen, which comes from Germany, which is one of the most progressive countries on climate change, Volkswagen, which talked a lot about wanting to be good citizen in climate action, actually was caught cheating on emissions through its software, which in fact has now been shown to have contributed to a number of deaths in Eastern Europe. Poor countries paying the price, right? Volkswagen admitted, was fined, and now has started an ad campaign saying how they have learned their lessons and they're going to improve their practices. The other example I like to mention is Japan. There was an earthquake in 2011, then there was a tsunami, which is all natural. The tsunami created serious damage to the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. Radiation led Japan to announce that they will start burning coal again. Is that just an excuse? Would seem like, because its carbon footprint was already having some ups and downs before the Fukushima accident. So economic development interests always affect choices. Climate change will always be pushed to the back, like the US faced in the last 4 years. Nonetheless, here is the United Nations Environmental Program to combat climate change and nature loss. Multilateralism is key. This is a statement by the Nordic countries, which agreed to create a regional coalition to deal with climate change issues. This is good news. This also happens within the country. Within the US, even as the central federal government takes various convoluted steps on climate action, states have formed coalitions like the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in the East, the association between Washington, Oregon, and California, and even parts of Canada, New York State, and so on. They have their own plans. Many corporations are in fact making their own plans for renewable energy and so on. The big four, Amazon, Apple, Google, and Microsoft, are generating so much heat from their data centers and cloud services. They need so much power that they want to have their own renewable energy systems. So there is action on many fronts, so climate justice may come about, but this is something that needs to be constantly monitored and kept on track, and prevented from being a dance that is 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It will be so for a while, but solutions for food, water, energy, and health that are climate friendly are going to bring about climate justice, equality, gender neutrality, decarbonization, and so on. So that's the end of this chapter. Even though I'm not a social scientist, I have expressed my own opinions and included all the ideas from the book. But if you're a social scientist and you feel that I have said something that is not kosher with social sciences, you buzz me. Okay? Thank you.